Is this thing on? 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, welcome to Ash on Comics Wednesday Hangout stream. Thank you so much for being here and putting up with technical difficulties that we're having. Believe it or not, we just did a whole run through of the opening of the show, and there's the. Sorry, I was listening in the background. And it wasn't running correctly. YouTube wasn't streaming it, so I had to start over. But you guys didn't really miss that, just not knowing. But just full transparency, me, egg on my face, looking like an idiot. That's how it goes here. Thanks for joining us for another episode. Skip, my friend Eric Breen, you guys are here joining me. Eric, how you doing tonight?
Well, we should tell them that we started the stream speaking French, but that moment's passed, so we're just going to go back to what our usual.
Right. Oh man. And one of my usual cohorts, a guy I love streaming with all the time, Skip. How are you doing this evening?
I am happy to be amongst good people, talking about comics, talking about some good books. So I'm in the moment. I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right.
All right, good. Well, there's a lot of things going on in the world, and we're for sure
ignore all of them.
We're gonna do our best to ignore all the stuff that's should be ignored, right? Especially for tonight. Let's have some distractions. Focus on some fun, some comics, geek culture, whatever we can. I for sure can use some distractions. So hopefully you can do that for me, and I'll do my best to provide it for you. It's so weird to be doing this when you've already done it. Like to the you guys listening, this is like the launch, but it's weird that we did this already. But anyways, tonight's stream is brought to you by Rip It Energy Fuel. I already cracked it open and did my whole thing, so I can't do that again. But it's I needed a bit of a pep me up. I was feeling a little bit down. I got a big jug of iced tea to follow that up. What are you drinking tonight, Eric?
Coke Zero.
I feel like I'm having some deja vu. Coke Zero. Have you tried any other flavors of Coke Zero besides the regular one, like cherry or the orange one?
The place I go to, it's kind of generic. I mean, they don't have. Yeah, I'm lucky to find the Coke Zero.
Oh, okay. Man, they have an orange one, but I was like, what? Orange Coke Zero? But I tried it, and it's like a creamsicle. It's delicious.
I would like that. I'm not. I love cherry, but I do not like it in soft drinks.
Ah, very good. And Skip, my friend, what do you got in beverage for tonight?
I just came off the basketball court, so trying to replenish some of those fluids with good old Gatorade, get some electrolytes going, and
nice.
I got the fruit punch flavor right now.
Oh,
I forgot to put my Glacier Breeze or whatever, the light blue one. I forgot to put them in the fridge before I went to basketball. So yeah, actually drinking my daughter's leftover fruit punch Gatorade, so she won't mind.
Dad, where's my fruit punch?
Baby, it's in my tummy.
Dad needed some.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I like the fruit punch. It's one of my favorites.
It's classic.
So we were gonna do Criminal Cast tonight, just the elephant in the room. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it. Personal scheduling issues, things like that. So if you guys were here and you were expecting that, and you're like wondering what's going on, thought we were gonna do that. We're gonna be scheduling that for next week. We're gonna do part 2 of Cruel Summer. So please come join us for that. I think we're working some improvements into the show, and we're gonna explore that, and you guys can give us feedback on how much better we're doing. Also that week, we're not going to be doing an episode on it yet, but the same day, the new Reckless book comes out. So get that Reckless, the book 2. What is it called? Devil?
Friend of the Devil.
Friend of the Devil, right. I can't wait for that. I'm so excited. I love the first Reckless book. So guys, get that book. Go to your LCS. If you don't have an LCS near you, it comes out in the bookstore market a week later. So I think that's March 5th. That's when you'll be able to get like Barnes and Noble and like Amazon, things like that. So that's an option as well. I'm estimating we'll probably do a Criminal Cast episode within a couple weeks of its release. So get it, come join us, and read good comics. Guys, today is New Comic Book Day. Did either of you get some new comics?
Yes, I did. Got quite a few in a sense, I guess. What about y'all?
I was not able to get out to the store today, so I wasn't able to pick up anything, unfortunately. So I don't have any. What about you, Eric?
I'm glad you asked.
I'm glad I asked too.
I got the latest issue of Back Issue, the latest issue of Alter Ego, and the latest issue of Retro Fan. So I had a magnificent New Comic Book Day. See what I did there?
Ah, wait. So you only got magazines about comics?
Mm-hmm. And some back issues.
What were the back issues you got?
My back issue. Today I picked up a couple of Captain Marvels, a couple of Ms. Marvels from the original series. Let's see, a team up. I picked up the bulk of them yesterday. I was working up a Bronze Age collection that came in Saturday, and one of the things I get to keep stuff for myself if I want them, and so I found some plugged some holes and got the rest of it out today, and watched it get attacked like a school of piranha, and most of it's gone already.
All right. Skip, did you get any new books?
Sorry, I had to mute myself. I did actually. I can. I'm gonna go on camera. Let me just flip over to my computer, and I can actually show our lovely and faithful audience what it was that I picked up today. I've got a number of things. I just had to bring my table over by me, so I had some place to put them all because got quite a few things. I had a very, very comic booky day after I had a very, very legal day. So switching over to the computer now.
All right. Well, while you're switching over the computer, mine will be super quick here. I didn't actually pick these up from the store, but I do have like a pull list, and they pull stuff for me. So there's 2 books that came out for me: Blade Runner Origins #3 and Usagi Yojimbo #19 were supposed to be out. So these are what's waiting for me when I go. I might swing by tomorrow, or I might just wait till next Wednesday to come by and pick those up.
Very nice. Test.
You're all good?
Should be coming through better now. All right, awesome. And here, I guess I can turn on an extra light.
Oh,
Everybody
look at that.
Able to see my sweaty body now.
That's what we come here for. Sweaty Skip. We're gonna, man, you're gonna put the ratings through the roof.
That's the least I can.
You gotta add those to the meta tags.
You should. All right, so I guess we can start with my light pile, and you know what? This is it's kind of interesting how things work. So I had a few books from yesterday, too. I might have put those away already. Weird, did I? I guess so. I'll grab those other ones later because there's some comics that I picked up from a few days ago. One of those was Haha, because my LCS. If I'm there Tuesday, he doesn't bug me about it. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's like that. So, but I've been so busy, I haven't been able to read it yet. So, Haha #4. And let's see, then from two separate hauls today. I got another haha number 4. So I got 2 haha number 4s. Don't ask why. All of those fell. Well, that's fantastic. I finally ended up getting issue 2 of Stray Dogs. And I got this variant because the cover is just like super cool movie poster style. And I'm a sucker for those.
Oh, me too.
I love movie. Oh, you too?
Yeah. That was the one thing, like, I was kind of regretting not getting Deceased when it was coming out, because those movie poster covers were so awesome.
Yeah, man. I'm just a sucker for movie posters, and especially like really well designed ones. So I got that. We'll dip into the Dan Waters boat a little bit. Shout out to Nalo, who couldn't be here, the other criminal, who was part of our criminal cast. I did go out and finally grab Homesick Pilots number 5. And I were talking week before last, and we really like Dan Waters. This book, it definitely is throwing some curveballs that is not like what I signed up for Dan Waters for, but it seems like the artist and Dan are having just kind of having a good time. Nalo feels like Dan is kind of just letting the artists have a little more fun. This is the same team that did Limbo together, so makes sense. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with the ride after that, but it has been fun. Speaking of Dan Waters, Nalo and I are going to review Coffin Bound, and I have them all digital. So I went and I grabbed Coffin Bound. Well, I have 1 and 2 physical, so I went and grabbed number 3 in the physical as well, so I can reread the series in the physical format. Shout out to Brad Simpson, awesome colorist, who did this. Brad also did some colors on one of the variant covers for Blade Runner Origins that Ash and I had reviewed, Blade Runner 2019. If y'all were a part of that when we were covering that, and that rolling over into Blade Runner 2029, which I hadn't read, and then Blade Runner Origins, which I was very interested in. So there's a little connection there. He was a NorCal artist, and he is currently not in NorCal anymore. And the only things that I can kind of stand to, well, actually, that's gonna take a change, and this is kind of part of the better part of my day. But of the original Dawn of X series, the only books that I still fish for are the Jonathan Hickman variants, and a guy named Tom Mueller, who actually, he and Jonathan Hickman, they did the rebrand, and their like all the new lettering, the white pages, all of that was his design. Well, I hunt down those variant covers, and I have all of them except for Marauders, X-Force, and X-Men, and that changed today. I was able to find the X-Force one as well as the X-Men variant from Tom Mueller and Jonathan Hickman today. So now the only one left for me to track down is Marauders, and then I can put them all in that House of X Powers of 10 box over there and seal them away. And I think I probably am going to end up selling them. But when I do, I'm going to keep all these ones for myself, because I love the design. And now this glitch type of art, remember this, because I said I wasn't going to buy any more X books. Definitely not from, what is it, Reign of X. I was like, I'm done. There's only a few that I was going to buy. Nick Dragata has come back and will be doing some pages inside of one of the X-Men books. And he and Jonathan Hickman, when they teamed up in the Fantastic Four run that Jonathan Hickman did, they did my favorite issue from within there that happens later on. It's one of the most emotional issues within the run. I feel it just thinking back to it. So I will be buying that one, but I'm really into this genre of music called dream punk, and which is like, it kind of branched off of vaporwave and then became its own thing. Well, within that, I had actually, give me just a second, and I'm going to grab something.
No worries. Get to just kind of skipped over the chat, guys. Apologize, all you I don't want to say loyal fans. I would say dedicated viewing audience is a better way to put that. Great to have you all here. Thank you for putting up with the stutter step that we did at the beginning, and of course, roasting me in the chat. I deserve it. Zach Richmond is in the house. Says he just wanted to say hi real quick to everyone, and he wishes he could hop on, but he's got to work. It's okay, Zach. You can hang out in the chat and do whatever. It's good to see you. And then, of course, Eric was typing in the chat. Eric was the one responsible, by the way, for discovering the technical problem and getting us back online. So,
speaking of technical problems, I was going to show a couple things that I got, but I turned on the camera and it's in reverse. It's a mirror image.
That can happen on Discord. Skip, do you have inside knowledge on these technical problems?
You know what? I thought I did, but actually what I was thinking of is in Zoom. So yeah, I have no idea why that's doing that. But if your camera is able to disconnect from the computer, you can try to pull it out and reseat it and see if that helps. If not, just act like you're in a mirror, I guess.
Yeah, I've noticed that it's does that on my side too. And if I wasn't live on the stream, I bet I could go Google. Maybe I can when we get back to Skip doing his stuff. I just want to cover some of the chat stuff, and then Skip will return. Let's see. Zach says he picked up new mango Pepsi. That sounds disgusting. I'm just kidding. It doesn't really, but it sounds weird. Rania says she's about to break into a chilled bag of Black Forest organic gummy bears. Oh, I'm so jealous. Nothing. John Snowden is here. Welcome back, my friend. I've seen you in the chat a couple times, and I appreciate you coming back for more more of whatever this is. I appreciate it. Got Orphan and the Five Beasts from Dark Horse, says Dragon Majesty. I haven't even heard of this. Let's see. Maybe we should not have Skip all zoomed in, stuffing his face with the big sandwich. Let's see. Enjoy that sandwich, Skip. Looks good. Ash recommended Black Forest to me, and he was so right. I'm right about a few things. And Chick-fil-A is bomb. Look at that. Man. I had hamburgers tonight, homemade. So I'm not entirely jealous. I'm a little bit full, thankfully. Otherwise, I'd be drooling. Cult of Dracula.
Microwave burritos. I'm jealous as hell.
Oh, I eat those plenty, Eric. So
hey, the Tinas? Did you have the Tinas?
Not me. I eat Monterey's.
Dude, Monterey's are so, and I'm from Monterey, of course, but they are good. The cheese is really good in the Monterey's.
If you get the signature Monterey's, they're pretty good. If you get the cheapo Monterey's that are like $3 a bag, it's a little bit different. Let's see. Nothing says, I really wanted to make it out for FS Dark Detective issues 3 and 4, but I'm actually just going to order the hardcover trade. I picked up some of the trade paperbacks online for Port of Earth. I'm on an MIB kick. I'm assuming Men in Black. I know a lot of people that are going more to the wait for the trade route for a lot of the new DC books, and that doesn't bode well. Dragonman says, request from Aftershock. Okay. Dragon Majesty got Dracula #1 from Source Point. And let's see. LK picked up the Walmart DC 4-pack today. Had FS Wonder Woman #1 on the front. Had Batman 92 and both regular and variant covers of Justice League 44. Oh, that seems pretty cool. I haven't seen those at Walmart in a long time. Of course, I haven't really looked, but
Batman 92 worth a few bucks for a minute?
That I couldn't answer. LK is notifying me that you and the Skip are low on the volume, so I'm adjusting things. As we go on, just let me know if that fixes things or doesn't, and I will continue to adjust the audio levels. All right. I think I've got us caught up in the most of the chat. Skip, if you're done stuffing your face with some delicious Chick-fil-A, you can get back to some beautiful comics.
Done for now, anyway. So if we're picking on where I left off, I was talking about this glitch art on these Tom Mueller covers that y'all can see here, and you can kind of see how it's like kind of glitched out, patterned out, almost looks like TV snow, but colored in. And then of course there's, all the other different effects going on there. I said I wasn't going to buy any of the Way of X books, but so I had ordered a bunch of Dream Punk vinyl. Like I said, that does kind of come from vaporwave. For any of y'all familiar with the vaporwave genre, if you're not, if you like grooves and just kind of like chill stuff, and some of it is even upbeat, there's a subgenre called future funk. Go check it out; it's really good. If you're into anime and manga, especially, check out future funk, because they literally, some of it is like literally modeled after like anime characters. They use them like in the art. They get artists from over there to do covers for the artists on those record labels. And there's even like a subgenre that's based off of this anime that was based off of California. So there's literally like a California, like future funk, vaporwave, like subgenre. I forget what it's called. It's probably called California Wave. Who knows? But get into that stuff. But through that, there's this label called Villain. We're into comic books, right? We like our heroes and we like our villains. Well, they do these albums where if you buy the album, you get a magazine with it, and within it, it's like you kind of go deeper into the world of that. Well, I went ahead from that label and got what's called the Glitch Art Bible, and you can already start to see the similarities with like some of this stuff and some of the art. Like I'll go to like a random page inside of it, and you can kind of see like a little bit more of like what it looks like and whatnot. And I'm like really, really, really into this stuff right now. Like this is my favorite stuff. This is my jam. And I'm like, I'm lucky enough to have a lot of like my really nerdy and niche interests kind of cross over each other, where I think I found this thing that's just like so far out and like who's gonna be into this and all this stuff. And sure enough, it starts to cross over. So I'm I get a record. I guess I can tell y'all this part. So I like, obviously, if you were following East of West with us, Dragata is very much into cyberpunk and dystopian type of stuff. I got him into this stuff, and I let him borrow one of my records, and I ended up with an extra copy. So I went and swapped him one, and I was showing this to him, and I tried to like give him one of the ones because I didn't realize I got two of the same. And he's like, "Oh, like I got no room for it." Like flipped through and just handed it back to me. So I was like, all right, well, I'm stuck with two. I don't know what I'm going to do with two. And after I had a really crappy day today, I was like, I'm going to do two things today. I'm going to play basketball, and I'm going to go to the comic shop. And I was like, oh, you know what? I think Justin would probably like this. So I hit up my buddy, Justin Greenwood, and he was like, he kind of knew what I was going through. And he was like, oh, dude, just like come over. So I went over there, talked to him for a little while. I ended up giving him my other copy. So he has one now, and he starts looking at this stuff, and he's like, oh, dude, that looks like the Tom Mueller stuff. And I was like, he's the one that's doing those covers with Hickman that I'm trying to collect? And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, look, check it out. And he takes me to his website, and I see that he has done a variant cover for one of the new Reign of X books. And it's that Nightcrawler series, Way of X. And look, it doesn't it look just like something out of that Glitch Art Bible that I just showed y'all?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, so naturally, I'm like, Marvel found a way to find what I'm interested in, even though it's kind of not attached to comic books, and pull more money out of me. So I went and I got both of them, like at the comic shop that I went to. So at this one comic shop, I grabbed both of these because I'm like, oh my gosh, all of my stuff, all my interest is overlapping. I'm going to go to the last book that I got from that comic shop. So I also got the rest of the coffin bound stuff that I didn't have physically. So I went and I grabbed those too. So I got all my coffin bound, got a variant cover for that Haha series. And the last thing, the same place where I got those Way of X Glitch Art Tom Mueller covers, they had one more copy of volume 1 of the deluxe edition released by Image of Criminal. Oh. So I grabbed that too.
Yes.
Yes, very tasty, right? So those are all the comics that I got today. Now there's more. So during the week I went and actually I found this series that looked really interesting by is it James Hudnall? I don't want to misquote. Yeah, James Hudnall from Epic Comics called Interface. So I was like, oh, that looks really cool. So naturally I found those and I went and I grabbed all these Interface books. If you want to see kind of what the art looks like on the covers, they're old. I want to say they're from they're from the 80s. And I think the series stretched like via reprints and stuff on Image into the 90s. But apparently it came out of another series called ESPers. So naturally, I had to go grab that series too, because I didn't want to completely be out of the loop on what the story is about. I do want to read the back real quick. It's kind of interesting. Her father's been taken hostage in the Middle East. The American government doesn't do anything about it other than make bold statements in the press. Months go by. Linda Williams has had enough. Except for her father, no one knows Linda has the psychic power to tap into computer banks. She robs the CIA of information, searching for clues on her father's whereabouts. What she gets is a list of she'll hire these ESPers to rescue her father and everything will return to normal. That's when the problems start and they keep getting worse and worse and worse. So naturally, that really interested me and it ties into the Interface series because this like sprang out of this. So I'm pretty stoked to read those. I found this because I'm obviously y'all know I'm into cyberpunk because I'm into Dreampunk, which is an extension of it. User. So obviously you see the girl reaching into the computer and then when she does, she gets some armor in her hand. Now, if you look closely, you'll see a very familiar name down there at the bottom.
Yeah.
Sean Phillips. So a Vertigo book, early Sean Phillips art, cyberpunk inspired, goes into a computer world and it's like basically D&D inside of the computer world, the virtual world.
That's a cool cover, man. On the camera, it really pops. Like it has a 3D quality. Like the way the shadowing is, it really looks like she's popping out of the box. It really I like that.
Ash?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to turn my camera on for a second because I reached into that magic box that everybody says I have. And you'll just have to pretend like you're watching this in a mirror, but that's the first issue of the original series.
You got it.
Actually, Breen, your camera's coming through right.
Oh, okay. So I see it in reverse, but it's coming through normal.
It's coming through normal to me.
Dude.
Is it normal for you, Skip?
Yeah. It's normal, man.
Okay,
yeah.
Well,
so that's cool. That's cool. I mean, it's backwards to you, but that's fine.
Yeah. So I can show a couple things I got today. Then.
Nice.
Dude, like, oh my, it's so that one was originally on Eclipse Comics,
yes.
and then the trade came out through Caliber Comics.
Yeah, the Caliber had some kind of affiliation with them, if I'm not mistaken, at least somewhere down the road. But I didn't want to disappoint you, because like I said, I know you count on me to be able to reach into that box and pull out anything that you need.
You never disappoint. And that's par for the course as far as that's concerned, because like I'd mentioned with Interface, like it had gone from multiple publishers, like to eventually, like it went from like Epic Comics to like Halloween Comics, and then found its way over into Image. And I think Image was the last place where they had republished the first like 4 or 6 issues, and then finally published the last 2 of Interface. So like ESPers is part of that, so it makes complete sense. Like there was some publisher jumping for this story.
There's a lot of that in the 80s, because companies would come and go. Eclipse, it was run out of a guy's basement and it flooded, and they lost basically their entire backlog of inventory, and they hung on for a few years after that. But I think they folded in like the early 90s.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's unfortunate. That sucks, but yeah, such is the world of comics. So yes, to Ash's point, the cover like reached out to me, so I just wanted to take a look at it. Saw Sean Phillips' name, and I'm like, I'm collecting Brubaker and Phillips stuff, so I'm gonna go ahead and collect some old Phillips stuff too. This is one that I totally looked past at first, and then I was like, I looked at the names, and then I was like, what? They teamed up to write this? So it's Punisher POV, but it's my favorite writer of all time, Jim Starlin, with Bernie Wrightson.
Green again.
Oh wow!
What happened?
So I have to ask if we want to give you the screen again.
Oh yeah, it's all taken care of.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Wrightson and Starlin together. Wow, that's cool.
On a Punisher book.
On a Punisher book of all things.
So I was like, okay, like I have to find out what that's like. So I got that. They have the other ones there, so I only grabbed one because it's a 1 of 4. Everybody knows I love Chaikin if you've been here long enough. So they did have the Black Hawk trades packaged all together, 3 for $15. So I got me all of those, and I'm very excited to jump into these this weekend. I'm going to go ahead and just knock this whole puppy out in one go. I am late to the Hernandez brothers, and I know completely out of order, but I did grab me a Love and Rockets comic just to check it out. The other affinity that I have is my I'll go. I don't want to. I'm on record, so I don't want to call it an obsession. But my curiosity for Teenie Howard and her books and her career peaks at all times. So when she won that Top Cow competition, that ultimately ended up getting her a book, Assassinistas, the artist for it was one of the Hernandez brothers. So of course, there's like that whole thing regarding that. If y'all have been around long enough, you know, well, again, more Jim Starlin. I do have the whole entire Dreadstar collection, but I had the opportunity to grab a magazine, like the old school, like format. So I love to put stuff like this in my collection. So I've got that.
Isn't that one of the isn't that one of the original
Marvel
graphic novels?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep, that is correct.
Oh man, that Love and Rockets is taking me back to the early '90s. I don't know if you were, because you're younger than me, Skip. So I don't know if you might have been pretty young during this time. Do you remember the goth era that was real popular around that time?
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
hey, Hulk and the Thing, Starlin.
Yep.
Dude,
I didn't have
Starlin.
Dreadstar, but I do keep a couple graphic novels, within arm's reach for you, Skip.
In the box.
Starlin and Wrightson.
Starlin and Wrightson, man. But yeah, no, I completely remember the goth scene, of course, you know, like the dude from The Cure and
literally
so many other people.
When you hold up Love and Rockets, music comes into my head because it is so ingrained. Like, do you know the band Sisters of Mercy?
Oh, dude, I learned about Sisters of Mercy recently. That dude and then that lady, and she was on the cover, like with the hair and everything.
Yeah, that's Sisters of Mercy was a band I was into for a while, and that whole era, it's like you pick that up, and I start hearing Sisters of Mercy in my head. It's crazy how times can, I don't know, I'm at a loss for words to put it together, but like how solid it's like an era that was so defined, I guess is the best way to put it. Like we think of disco in the 70s.
Absolutely, man. No, totally. Like, yeah, the 80s, like you said, everything was so defined. The music, the look, the economy, like so many things about the 80s. Like you can just point to, you know, the technology and where that was coming. Handheld cameras and cassette players and Walkman, just like all that stuff, video games and Nintendo, and how the graphics, you know, okay, we got 8-bit now. And, you know, soon after that, we would have 16-bit, all of those things. It was, I'll be surprised to find another, if we ever have another time quite like the 80s, where so many things were like either highly innovative or just so well defined, and the quality of them was just so high. Doesn't
it seem like in modern times, I think because we've gone digital to just everything, and doesn't it feel like fads and trends and things like that, they come and go so quickly that they never have a time to really flourish?
Yeah.
And that's because they can reach full saturation overnight with today's technology.
Yeah, you're probably right. But it's interesting how that affects, whereas, you know, in the past, the 80s, it feels like an entire decade, like, of the 80s was defined by the various things. And nowadays it's like every year feels like a decade. It's like, oh, Ron, we moved on to this now.
I will say, if I ruled the world, I would make every high school kid go back in time and spend a couple years in the 80s, and then maybe they would come back with their backsides a little bit unclenched and not be offended by every effing thing.
Yeah.
One would hope.
As someone who spent their 20s in the 80s, that was a hell of a decade.
Yeah. It was
You
fun
had
times.
it good. I'll finish up. I got Chariot number 2, Brian Hill and Priscilla Petrates. I'm sure I'm not saying her name right, but I'm still on this train. Still a fun comic. Interested to see where it goes. I finally grabbed issue number 1 of Gunning for Hits, music thriller. Very interesting, more engaging than I thought it would be. So I'm having a good time. There we go. Breen in his box, man. Breen probably has like the whole rest of the trade of Chariot, and it's not even in print yet. Imagine that.
I know when
one,
Breen and
Chariot.
Skip both have the same comic, that it's something I should be interested in.
These are the facts. You can't escape the facts. I did get a Steve Darnell and Alex Ross book from Vertigo. Oh, dang it. I grabbed the wrong one. I was supposed to grab the first one. Well, I got to fix that. I guess I just got to go buy the other one now. I think it's US. Isn't that the dude from, isn't that Uncle Sam or whatever his name is from the...
Yeah, from Freedom Fighters.
Freedom Fighters.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Hence the US Uncle Sam.
That's what, okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure of that because I was making the connection. But for me, it like Vertigo, Alex Ross pretty much sold it. But I thought
that was a hell of a bluff.
Yeah. I bought it and I don't buy them easy. I did find a Harlan Ellison book, Dream Corridor Quarterly. I think it's like magazine style, kind of like anthology type thing. But all I needed was Harlan Ellison and the word dream, and I was on board. So interested to jump into this one too. My last 2 are Batman related. First, I had a little bit money, extra money in there, and I saw, of course, a Darwin Cook Catwoman toy. So I was like, hey, you got any Darwin Cook here besides this $25 toy that I'll get some other time? And it was like, well, you bought the New Frontier already. And that was like, and then he just goes over there and he's like, oh, and I'm like, oh, Selena's Big Score. I'm still reading through that. I was like, no, I already got that one. And then he's like, oh, okay. And he puts it in his left hand and I see that it's a hardcover. So of course I had to get that. So Selena's Big Score, Darwin Cook, hardcover. Yo, his design and just that advertising background that he has, it just makes everything just so much more visually appealing. And I actually was able to find it, but I left it back there because I thought this would be a more fun one to buy and to show y'all. So I had put in the thread, and if y'all aren't in Ash's Discord, I would highly advise that you get in there. We have good, fun conversation from video games to comics to movies to TV shows. And when I go to comic book stores, I'm always taking pictures of either weird or odd or funny things, and I put them in there. So I had posted a picture of the Marvel movie, The Punisher, with Dolph Lundgren as the lead, and they did a comic book adaptation for that, and they published it, and it was out. And everybody's like, you should have got it. Why didn't you get it? And I was like, yeah, I probably should have. Well, I stashed it back there. I can always go find it because no one's going to go to that store and dig it up. But while I was looking for it, I found one that actually jumped in line. I found, and I don't even have to say it.
Oh boy!
That's
DC's
book.
bringing that back.
Yes, yeah, with the whole Batman 89 comic, which I am a fan of. Batman 66, the comics, and I got them all lined up. I pulled an Ash where I put them all on my wish list so I can always go back and check when they're on discount. Ash, I'm learning. So all the Batman 66s are in there. But yes, when I saw Wes's video that they're doing a Batman 89 comic, you know that.
And
that
apparently, one of the writers of the film is the writer of the book.
Nice.
So,
Oh, dude,
so it will
awesome.
be a semi true to the spirit Batman sequel to Batman Returns.
That is too. Oh my, I am. That's all I want. And I mean, Batman Returns was cool and everything, but if we can get that, what we didn't get from Batman Forever, which I'm not one of those people that bash it. Yeah, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin were what they were, but I was still young enough to be like, I'm getting Batman movies, and I like Adam West Batman. But let me tell you something, y'all. So though I grabbed this, the official comic adaptation of the Warner Bros. Motion picture Batman, what really took the cake for me is I looked at the bottom and it's Denny O'Neil and Jerry Ordway.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like instant buy. Sorry, Dolph. I'm rolling with
Sorry,
Dolph.
Dude, this is DC. I mean, DC was when Batman in '89 came out. They didn't treat this as like a throw. Like today, Marvel or DC, they would just treat the movie stuff like throwaway crap or whatever. This was how the mainstream studios used to and still should be treating the movie tie-ins and things. Like, put your A game out there.
Well, this should tell you. So I own one movie adaptation in comic book form, and Skip just showed it.
Wow.
That says it all, y'all. If y'all don't have Batman, the Batmans, that old Batman 89.
I couldn't find any room in 55,000 books for any more movie adaptations.
So that's the only one that made the cut. And let me remind everybody that one of my progeny, one of my children, her name is Victoria, but her nickname is Vicky, and it's spelled Vicki, because when I was a kid, I fell in love with Kim Basinger and Vicky and her Vicky Vale, and I tricked my ex-wife because I was like, oh, let's call her Victoria. She was like, why Victoria? I was like, because then your initials are VF, and then her initials are VF, and she was like, oh, okay. And on my daughter's 10th birthday, I crawled in her bed and I laid on top of her and I woke her up and I whispered on her and I said, you're named after a comic book character. And she just looked at me and she was just like, of course I am, Dad.
Of course. Hey, interrupt here for a minute here to catch up on some of the chats. LK wants to know, what's the elevator pitch for Chariot?
Elevator pitch for Chariot. 80s retro wave style book regarding a car that is sentient, comes alive, saves a guy who's down on his luck, back against the wall and owes the mob some money. And those two come together because they actually end up needing each other. Eric, Breen, and Ash, tell me the name of the movie, because I always forget it, where that car was alive in the 80s.
Automan?
Christine? Oh.
No, go, Breen.
Christine?
I think it's Christine.
Christine was the Stephen King one. It was like a horror, and the car went around killing people.
Yes. Okay. So take Christine and mix it with Back to the Future, and make it a little more edgy and less horror, and you got Chariot.
Oh.
And just and the car, the sentient part of it takes human, like a human ghost-like shape in the form of a 80s hooker.
Which is true for Chariot, except she's a little more of a club goer than a hooker.
Okay. It was hard to tell the difference sometime in the 80s.
Well, with all that cocaine, of course.
So was she more like an escort than a streetwalker?
Oh yeah, she's definitely high end, but
there we go.
Okay. Yeah, and it's interesting. So it's Brian Edward Hill is writing it. So I said it's from AWA Upshot, and something else from that company I would recommend is Casual Fling, although they've already done 3 of the 5 issues.
You heard it here first, kids. Eric Breen recommends A Casual Fling.
Yeah, it's not. I mean that's it's interesting. It's basically it's what it says, but the Casual Fling is the wife, and the husband has given up everything. He's taking care of the kids. He's given up his job so she can concentrate on her career at the law firm, and she becomes resentful that she has to do it. So she meets up with this guy, and has a well, casual fling. And now he is combination blackmailing and terrorizing her.
Sounds like a
And
90s movies featuring Kirk Douglas.
it
Oh,
kind
Michael
of
Douglas.
Well, yeah, Michael Douglas. And so she confesses to him, and given the way the guy's personality has been in this up to this point, you're thinking, oh, he's going to say, it's okay, honey, I'll help you through this. And he goes, get out. And yeah, it's so, he stands up for himself, and he goes, yeah, he takes, well, actually, I think he takes the kid and he leaves, but he's not interested in, being stepped on anymore, because he's given up everything for her, and she, in his mind, she took a huge dump on him. But, but then it's become a little more complicated, and the last issue should be pretty interesting. But
yeah, and shout out to Brad Simpson, who also actually did colors on one of the covers for Casual Fling. So another Brad Simpson thing.
So, mind if I show a few things, Ash?
Please
do, but hold, if you can hold it just for a moment. I want to catch up a couple of the chats, and then
cool. Unless you're going to do a face reveal, in which case, that can
yeah, hold the presses.
I mean, I guess you could, if you don't want to talk when you show stuff, of course, I'm not going to stop you. I just didn't want to, I wanted to give you the whole floor. I just want to address Eden Dragon Match. He says, nice skip. Harlan Ellison is awesome. You can't go wrong with Harlan Ellison, says Dominic. So we got a lot of Harlan fans. Let's see. Marani says, try to find the Deathbird story, Saturday or Angry Candy. All right. LK says he believes the Dream Quarter was the last Ellison work. They also did Lost 66 Batman episodes for Two-Face. Harlan Ellison wrote the 66 Batman series. Freaking awesome. A lot of people praising your find. Let's see. Dominic says AWA Studios are going strong with their titles and creative teams. Seems to be a strong consensus. A lot of people like the AWA stuff. Dragon Majesty recommends Redemption #1. It's a sci-fi western. And go ahead, Eric.
Rats, I had Redemption here. I was gonna pull that, but I don't know what I did with it. Okay. I'm gonna show off the magazines here. This latest issue of Back Issue, Legacy Characters. I said, I don't know if you guys in the chat are familiar with this. It's from Tomorrow's. It's basically, Roy Thomas has a huge involvement in this company, and it's basically, preserving, Bronze Age comics, more or less. Then there's Alter Ego, which for years covered the Golden Age, and now they've kind of, it's kind of a combo of Golden Age and Silver Age. This has an in-depth article, and I think an interview with Gary Friedrich, the Ghost Rider creator.
Nice.
This is a really good magazine. I said they did a Stan Lee tribute that I wasn't able to get, but I got the Ditko one, which is really good. Then same company, they also do something called Retro Fan. This is basically a pop culture tour de force from the 50s through the 70s. So this is, all three of these are done by Tomorrow's. And like a dumbass, I didn't get the first 13, but my shop still had one today, so I thought I'd go ahead and grab that, and let's show a couple of back issues here because it's in my name.
Back issues are one of the great things about comics. I don't think anyone should be into comics without at least some level of interest in back issues. I mean, I'm always touting new stuff, but without the back issues, I don't think the new stuff would matter anyway to me. So I think it's good to have a healthy balance.
My balance is very unhealthy at the moment, but
I was trying to keep it positive, Eric.
No, so here's the thing. This is the great thing about this. Why this is the best hobby in the world. There's nothing coming from the big two that I'm even remotely interested in right now. Very little in the indie, but there's so much, to mine from, whether it's back issues or trades or, 80 plus years of material to get, that if you don't want to, you can never run out of stuff to get. So I said, let's show off a couple here. Captain America 188. I just found out today that Captain America 180, the issue where he becomes Nomad, is like $130 book now.
Wow.
Damn.
That collection we bought Saturday had one of those.
Sweet.
With an X-Men 94, Giant Size 1, Werewolf 32, Tomb of Dracula 10, Daredevil 131, Iron Man 55. It was nice. I mean, I was holding a stack of books like this that was worth probably $10,000. Only I was holding them like this.
Wow.
It was something. And
did the person that was selling them, did they know what they had?
No idea.
Oh my God. That's so terrible.
We told him.
I always feel bad though, like when people offload stuff. It's tough. I don't know if I was a comic book store owner. I want to believe I would be honest and stuff, but at the same time, you're like,
well, we got a great deal on them. They got more than they ever would have expected. They've got more, and we're gonna get them. So it's sometimes it's. I mean, he pulled out those and said, "Look, here's what you have," and he goes, "Here's what I'm offering for these." And basically, the rest of it is kind of filler material, which it is and it isn't. But what we're trying to do is, price these things so that the next person that sees them will jump all over them.
right.
Yeah, this is three issues past the $300 and something Bullseye first appearance. This is $2. They had without Bullseye, there's not a whole lot of value. This was a jester story, who at the time was a bigger villain than Bullseye. So, for Dalton would appreciate this. Doctor Strange 14. Or a crossover with the Tomb of Dracula, where Dracula kills Doctor Strange at the end of Dracula 44, and the finale is in his book.
Oh, that's cool.
Here's a neat little Ghost Rider versus the Hulk.
Nice.
Style.
I miss those Marvel Comics group strips, like at the top of the books. I miss that.
It's the most iconic trade dress in the history of comics. It's the most imitated. And I said, it's iconic. I mean, you always know who they're doing when you see those. And I wish, it was absolutely my favorite too. Here's a Invaders where the Red Skull turned them into Nazis, and Bucky has to form the Liberty Legion to fight them.
That's cool.
Now, and for a certain young lady in the chat,
a
couple of Iron Mans.
Yeah.
Oh. I like that cover. That's a sweet cover.
That is.
Who did the cover art on that, Eric? Do you know?
I am trying to figure that out. I want to say might have been Jim Starlin.
Or maybe I should be asking Maranya. Who did that cover?
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was signed, but it's just it's part of the rock that was drawn. But I've wondered about that, Ash. And I think it is, but then here back when the Blizzard was a serious villain and could actually end the first of his two parts like a Batman episode. What's this? The dynamic duo doomed? Just cross out dynamic duo and put the Armored Avenger. See, Marvel Team Up 67. Spider-Man and Tigra.
Oh, nice.
Part of the Byrne Claremont run. And issue 68, also part of the Byrne Claremont run. And Tomb of Dracula 56. If anybody had been reading at the time, there was a character named Harold H. Harold, who was this just complete dork loser writer. And for some, he amused Dracula. So Dracula didn't kill him for a number of issues. And this issue was the book he had been trying to write the whole time, where, of course, he self-inserts as a suave, debonair, guy that can, Dracula's greatest foe type of character. And, this was a great series. Like I said, anybody, if you get a chance to read this, they are available. 3/5 of it are available in trade now. And, Gene Colan did the art on all 70 issues. Marv Wolfman did the writing on about 64 of them. Actually, Gardner Fox wrote the first couple. Then Jerry Conway, and then it turned over to Wolfman, and he did the rest of them.
I love Gene Colan.
I did too. I found this Amazing Adventures #1.
Wow.
Nice. Whoa.
It's unfortunately there's writing on the back cover, and this doesn't look nearly as good once you take it out of its protective coating. I picked up a couple issues of Ms. Marvel long before she became Captain Marvel.
Still my favorite costume.
Um,
People make fun of it, but I love it.
because I always loved this Captain
And
Marvel
that one,
cover.
yeah, of course, the real Captain Marvel.
Yeah, let's see. Part 2 of the Jester storyline, where he had convinced everybody that Daredevil had become a murderer. Coming of Union Jack.
Whatever happened to the old Union Jack?
He died in Captain America 254, the original one. Actually, this was his grandson taking. Oh, this was the one that died in that, and his grandson took over for him after that. But here's the Baron Blood.
Nice.
Anyway, that's enough show and tell.
Wow, you guys, man, I feel totally inadequate today. You guys hit the mother loads and just tons of comics. Oh, I gotta maybe up my game. Been saving up for these Ed Brubaker books that I need to buy.
Oh, cool. Glad they got there, Maranya. Or glad it got there.
So let's see.
Sent her a Hellboy.
You sent her a Hellboy?
Yeah, it started as a joke. This guy that works at Goodwill, when he gets trades in, he'll bring them down to me. That's how I got a Starhawk hardcover, which was actually a Gil Kane comic strip from the 70s. And Ron Goulart was the writer. He's a guy that's written books on the industry. But the other day he brought in a Hellboy, and as a joke, I sent to a group we're in with Jimmy, it's probably going to throw this away. I was trying to get a rise out of Jimmy, and Maranya saw it and said, send it to me. And I go, all right. So I did.
All right. That's I didn't know Maranya was into the Hellboy stuff. I've been reading I just started a comic book series that my buddy picked up for me, and I've been forcing myself to not forcing myself to read it, forcing myself to start to read it. But have either of you guys read a series of books called The Golden Age from DC?
You talking about the James Robinson series?
The very one.
Haven't read it in almost 30 years, but I would have to say you might get some argument from Starman fans, but that's, in my opinion, the best thing he's ever written. And once upon a time, he was as good a writer as the industry had. So, yeah, that's a masterpiece.
Well, I'm on book 2 currently. Let's see here. Show. No. Technical difficulties. Stand by. This series right here. This is the covers. I just wanted to get so everyone could see. I was not a fan of James Robinson because I've only read modern James Robinson, and I was like,
That would do it.
he's just kind of not bad. He's just kind of boring. And my buddy bought me the graphic novel version of these 4 books, which these are, you can't tell from the digital pictures here, but they're like the premium bound, like, what do you call it? Prestige format books, extra thick, they're real nice. And my buddy was like, he's like, you've read these books before. And I was like, no, I never read this, I swear. And he's like, dude, I loaned you these books, like, so you could read them. And I was like, dude, I've been away in Colorado, like, for like 20 years. He's like, yeah, I was like back in the 90s. I was like, you what? He's like, yeah, you've got my books. And I was like, no way, I don't got your books. He's like, yeah, and I was like, all right, this must have been like 30 years ago. You loaned me. He's like, yeah. And I was like, well, I clearly just don't remember. Although I do remember these covers, they're gorgeous. And I was like, if I did read them, it's completely blanked my mind. So I started picking it up. I've been trying to read. Problem is, I'm reading them before bed, so I usually like read an issue and fall asleep. But this is really good. Like, this is not the James Robinson that I read today, and I'm very excited because I've been wanting to dive into the JSA stuff and some more of that classic DC style stories. I have Infinite Frontier. I wanted cracking it. I'd always feel just kind of intimidated, not knowing where to start. And he bought me this trade of these books, which made me feel like obligated, to not procrastinate, I guess. Because I'll buy books and I'll just let them sit for years sometimes. I'm like, oh, I want to read that. But I'm like, you know what? This was a gift. It means something. So I started reading it, and I'm loving it. And I'm so glad, because that's what I need a lot of times, a fire under my ass to just convince me that it's worth reading. I don't know what it is, but I get these weird, stubborn procrastination streaks where my brain tells me this is something I probably should do, but I'm like, I'll go play video games instead, or I'll go watch this movie instead. It's so nice when you find a great book that convinces you, like, oh, you made the right decision. So anyone, if you guys out there in comic book land are looking for cool back issues, I don't think these are expensive. They're beautiful to own. I have this book right here in the top right. That's the version I have, the Golden Age trade. They have had different covers. It says it's an Elseworlds book, but from what I understand is it kind of leads into the JSA series that launched in the late 90s. Is that correct, Breen?
Loosely.
Like, yeah, loosely.
I would say, yeah, Ash, just remember I said, if the brain tells you, you should consider it. But if the Breen tells you, you do it.
Nice.
That's good.
Very nice.
Now, as far as James Robinson goes, his Starman series that ran about 80 issues and starting like 94, it spun out of 0 Hour. Excellent. There was a company, the Malibu had the Ultraverse. He did a book called Firearm that was really good. Then he went on at some point he went on a years and years long LSD trip, and he did a version of Airboy that was just god awful. And then he admitted, he goes, it was basically, he was writing Airboy as himself with his drug problem. Apparently he got cleaned up. He wrote the last good run of Wonder Woman in like the rebirth in the 30s. Where he introduced her brother. That was actually pretty good. But as we know now, straight men are no longer allowed to write Wonder Woman. So he got dumped, I think, for oh god, I don't know if it was, he might have gotten run to make room for G. Willow Wilson.
Well, that's my minor contribution to the books. Let's see. Dominic says, I love Golden Age before Starman. This is one of his best works. And I've been hearing about the Starman series. I don't know much about these characters at all. And so you guys are listening that don't know my backstory. I'm a Marvel nerd. I'm an 80s Marvel nerd. Like Jim Shooter is my cup of tea. I love the 80s Big Bang kind of Marvel glam, and then into the early 90s with some of the edgelord stuff. I love the big, bold, artistic stylings of like the Image guys that, you know, that they kind of pioneered. That's kind of where I've come from. But as I've been older and I get a little bit more refined in my tastes and stuff, this style of comic book, which back in the day, I would have been like, ew, this is dorky. This is like my dad's comics, like, is becoming more appealing to me. But that's how I used to look at DC, just basic DC, which I now very much like thanks to the Rebirth era. But even the JSA kind of stuff seems even more so. So it's just tough for me to kind of absorb it and get into it. But I'm really trying. But it can be intimidating when there's just so much out there and you don't know what to jump into. So I'm very happy to, and I like discovering this stuff. It's really cool to be into comics for a long time and still to find new stuff, right? I don't think I ever want to get to a point where I'm like, I've read everything. There's nothing new for me to discover. You know, I love the fact that I'm like, oh, here's a huge universe of comics that I can experience and explore. I know some people don't like picking up new books and going, oh, you know, I'm in the middle of the run. I missed the beginning. It's like, no, that's kind of the fun, is like jump in and start to figure stuff out. If you already know all the back histories of every character and every origin and everything, I don't know. I miss that time that when I was a kid back in the 80s, and like when I picked up an Iron Man book for the first time and was like, oh, who's this guy? You know, I want to read about this, and learning all about it. And so anyways, that's what I'm trying to say with here is like, I feel like there's a whole universe with the golden age of DC with JSA stuff, and I think All-Star Squadron is another group, and Starman, all this, and I get to learn about these guys, which I know nothing about. I'm a complete novice.
All-Star Squadron was basically Roy Thomas's passion project. He'd done Invaders for Marvel in the 70s, but Roy's passions are history and military history and golden age superheroes. So he got to put all three of those together again with All-Star Squadron, and that gave us Infinity Inc., the Young All-Stars. And he was chugging along doing his thing, and basically the Crisis wiped them out of continuity. So that was kind of a sore spot for Roy, and he hung on for about another year, and then they pulled the plug on that, and he switched over to Young All-Stars, and that lasted for about 30 issues. But it is as dense as a phone book, but there's not a wasted word in any of the 67 issues or 3 annuals. And that's, just if you just like really fun comic book escapism, you'll love All-Star Squadron. But you were mentioning Starman before. You don't really need to know that much about it. I think he was the ne'er-do-well brother of the previous Starman, and he kind of had it thrust upon him. And his cosmic rod is the one that Star Girl ended up with. So that character kind of really only, if I'm remembering correctly, only existed for the length of his series. But it's really it's the closest thing to a Vertigo book without being a Vertigo book, as far as like tone and tenor. And to me, I hate to say this because I know I'm in the minority. It's like a Vertigo book without the pretentiousness, maybe. that some of them tend to have, I mean, maybe I'm saying this because I was
I
never
think
a
I can
Sandman
understand
fan.
what you're saying, because the Golden Age feels like that when I'm reading it. It feels a bit like a Vertigo book because it feels like a modern take on the Golden Age. It feels kind of like, have you ever seen the show Mad Men?
Oh yeah, every episode.
Okay, so you know what I'm saying, like that. It's got a modern writing approach to a certain era of time, and part of the feel of that show is due to the era that it's trying to encapsulate, but also it's a part of the perception that we in our time view that era. So it's probably not 100% historically accurate. There's like artistic liberty and embellishment, but I think when you combine the two with good writing, you can bring something out. And I think at least Golden Age kind of has that stylistic feel. I mean, this is a book I believe that came out in the 90s, 94 or 93, and it feels like it feels like an adult book. Like it has that Vertigo kind of attitude, like where it's like, look, we're not writing for kids. You know, Vertigo is very unapologetic in that respect. Did I freeze up?
No,
Oh, okay. Eric was just like totally still, and I'm like silence.
no, I'm asking Joe to promote our Avengers Defenders retrospective. We need the views.
Hey guys, Joe and Eric apparently did a Avengers retrospective. Is it on your channel, Eric?
No, it's on Wes's. We covered the Avengers Defenders War.
Oh, okay.
That we do that. We do a retrospective every week now. That's what we do on Monday mornings. And we've done the Kree Skrull War, the first Ra's al Ghul story, and this week we did the Flash 123, the Flash of Two Worlds. The first time they brought Jay Garrick into the main DC universe from since the Golden Age, and issue 54 of the Wally West series, which was a one and done, just a really neat story about a hijacking and how they spend the second half of the issue is Wally trying to save a flight attendant who was sucked out of the plane during the melee. And it's just kind of like examples of a Barry Allen and a Wally West issue.
Okay. Dominic in chat says that don't forget that James Robinson also had a Wildcats run at Wildstorm before Jim Lee sold the studio.
I'd forgotten that.
What's that?
I had forgotten.
Had you forgotten?
Yes.
I didn't know anything about James Robinson. I was not into comic books actively at that time. Has anyone read that series? Is it worth checking out? Because I'm a Wildcats fan.
Without remembering it, I can say yes, because in the late 90s, once the bloom had come entirely off of the Image Rose, i.e., by the time they decided that writers mattered, they went out and got the best, and those were the best books that anything associated with Image did in that whole time were the Wildstorm books of the late 90s, was the Stormwatch, the Authority, Wildcats, this offshoot series. There was some really, really good stuff done in that era.
That's one that's on my radar is Authority. I've discovered its existence recently, mostly through researching like Ed Brubaker and just trying to go back through his bibliography. Just be like, what else has this guy done? I need to, and I'm like, wait, he did this Authority book? This is Wildstorm? And then I was like, holy crap, there's a lot of people that worked on, I think Morrison did a run on Authority. I think Ellison. There was another big writer. Oh, Mark Millar did an Authority run. It's like they just took a bunch of these big name writers and it's like, here, do an Authority run. And I was like, I like all these. Well, Morrison's a little weird, but he's when he's good, he's good.
And there's a Robbie Morrison that wrote some stuff then in that era too, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe, but this Authority, like, there's multiple volumes of Authority, and I want to say Grant Morrison did the first volume, and then Mark Millar did volume 2, and then maybe Brubaker 3. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly, and then Ellison might have done volume 4.
No, when you say you mean Ellis?
Sorry, yes, Ellis, not Ellison. Warren Ellis.
Now, yeah, I said those are some good books to go back and get. The trick is, it's almost impossible to find the single issues anymore because most of them have just been filtered out of shops unless you find like a stray issue here or there.
Well, funny you should say that, Eric. My store has almost all of them.
Really?
Massive run. I was like, holy crap. Now, unfortunately,
Nice.
my regular store is terrible. I mean, part of the reason they always have a good supply of back issues is because their price on the back issues is a little too much. They usually start at a quarter over cover price. Which if it's a really old book, of course, that'd be amazing. But, you know, it's like your $3.99 books are usually like $4.25. But if it's a basic issue that no one really cares about, you can go to other stores and get them in the dollar bin. And so it's kind of disheartening when you're like, ah. So, yeah, sometimes they can have really good stuff. As a matter of fact, they've got America Chavez. They've got, I think, 9 of the issues. But I've been eyeballing them to get.
Now, yeah, it's standard, LCS practice when a book comes out, once it goes into back stock, to back and bag it and mark it up a quarter. Problem is, a lot of times they never get out of there, and if they, at some point you have to go in and lower them. Yeah, like those kind of books at this point should be. If I had a run at my store, I would put $1.25 on them and keep them in regular stock so they'd be in order. But yeah, that's a big ask to ask somebody to pay cover price for a 20-year-old book that did not increase in value 1 cent because there's so much stuff has come after that. So it's too bad you're the one that has all those big runs doesn't get around to doing that.
Yeah, so it's a pro and con thing, because on the plus side, I can buy America Chavez books for pretty cheap. Pretty darn cheap compared to what they're going for. And I can also find stuff. Like, I mean, I found Hawkworld #1. I mean, I went to my back issue store, which has the dollar room, which I love. That's the place to go. It's like the gold mine. And I bought like 12 issues for $10
Nice.
of Hawkworld, but they didn't have #1 in the dollar bin. Naturally, there was like 2 through 14, minus 2 issues. So it was, anyways. You guys do the math. And then I went to my actual store where my pull list is, and I buy all my new comics because they do really good with new comics, and I get a discount and all that stuff. And they had the Hawkworld #1 for $4. So I was like, that's a #1, it's $4. I'm not going to complain. And they had lots and lots of the other issues, but they were like $3 a piece. And I'm like, these are dollar bin issues, guys.
Yeah, the if you want to keep them together in stock, a lot of places just won't put a run in for $1. But I say, again, if I were putting that up, I might put $1.50 on the first issue, and and so it would stand out at least. But $1.25 on the rest of them, it'd be no more than that. Because I mean, it's not because the book isn't good, because it is. But again, it did not increase in value at all. There have been how many Hawkman series since then? And at some point, if you ever want to get people to discover this stuff, you have to make it, economically feasible for them to do it.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason people are willing to pay cover price for books is because there's that chance that book goes up in value, right? I got to tell you, there's quite a few books I wouldn't buy, especially from the big two, if I knew all of them were just going into dollar bins all the time. I would just wait. I made this comment last night on my Storytime stream about the new Super Sun series, and I was like, "Oh, I was this close to buying it because I love Super Sons. I've collected every issue." And they finally the third series has come out in floppy form, and I was like, "This is going to be dollar bin material in a year." And I'll just wait and grab them all up in a dollar bin. And why pay $3.99 an issue right now? I'm not in a hurry. These books have already come out because they were digital first. So essentially, it's a back issue on the shelf. It came out like 4 months ago, or whatever in the pandemic. I don't remember how many issues. I'm sure Tahilim, if he were here, he could tell us. But hell, it might have been 6 months ago. I can't even keep track. And I'm like, so now you're selling me a back issue on the shelf for $3.99? No. I'll get them because I want them, but I'll wait.
Yeah, speaking of dollar books, yes, that when I'm not in between pricing collections, I'm going through all the boxes and marking most of it down to $1. It was kind of fun. I marking down the entire Mariko Tamaki Hulk run and going through boxes. I mean, I one of the other things I'm doing is based on authors. Let's just say it's been a rough couple of days for Steve Orlando, Christopher Savala, and you see certain names. They just the pen just involuntarily marks the one in a slash. Like I can't control it. It's out of my control.
Breen is secretly just trying to make everyone else's house almost collapse from buying too many comics. It's all a ploy to compromise the integrity of people's house structure.
Oh man. Let's see. So LK is correcting. Ellis and Hitch did the first run, I guess 1 through 12. Millar and Quietly did. Millar and Quietly? Oh,
That's right.
13 through 20. Oh, I like.
Sounds like Ash is going to start at number 13 for the Authority.
I like Brian Hitch too. Like Ellis and Hitch seems like a good, right? Like.
Oh yeah, I would think so.
Millar and Quietly, and then what was after that? And then Ed Brubaker, right?
That's what I was trying to figure out. I was asking him if it was Morrison next or Brubaker, or if Brubaker went last.
That seems like a series to collect in back issues. The thing is, I know nothing about the Authority other than it's a Stormwatch book, and some people said it was kind of good. Like I don't hear anyone.
Well,
going, oh my
that's
god,
for Apollo and Midnighter remembers the Authority. Jenny Sparks. There was a guy like Hawksmoor or something like that his feet were like tire tracks. He could climb anything.
Mm-hmm.
They were basically, each one was a shittier person than the next. They were heroes not because they had any altruistic motives. They were just dicks that just kind of ended up doing sort of the right thing. And they had a thing that they just called the door that could transport them anywhere they wanted to go. But it was the I said, I know it makes it sound like I'm trashing it. I'm not. That's me saying it was really good because they were the alternative to the like I said, the pure as a driven snow type heroes.
right?
But, yeah, they were.
Yeah, they're sort of like the way the government would probably handle superheroes, is what I was.
Yeah,
imagining.
and I'm not trying to confuse them with the boys or anything like that. I mean, because they weren't secretly, killing plane loads of people like Homelander. I mean, they just they were not the nicest people in the world. But yeah, I said it really, Ash, any Wildstorm you can get from the late 90s is worth, like I said, Stormwatch, Wildcats, any of them.
Nice. Okay, cool. Because that was my bag when I left. I mean, I loved Wildcats. I know people make fun of the early Image stuff and be like, I thought Jim Lee and Brandon Choi, I mean, they weren't world-class writers, but they wrote fun stories. And of course, Jim Lee's art was just eye popping. So I just didn't care. If you could just write a competent story with fun villains, and I was in on it. So if it's at least that good, my problem was some of the later Image stuff. It was like, oh yeah, you got great artists, but what the hell happened to the art? It's like, Jesus, it went a complete flip.
I think you're going to see a resurgence in that early Image stuff in the next year or so. Because depending on how you mark anniversaries, the 30th anniversary is either here or will be celebrated next year. I don't know who's left to celebrate it that's still with the company, but I think you're going to start seeing a renewed interest in some of those early series.
That'd be awesome. It sucks, though, of course, if Stormwatch is not part of Image anymore, and that was my favorite bag.
But those, like I say, those early, because for years and years and years, if somebody brought in that stuff, you would just kind of get turned around and helped out the door. Because but now it's been long enough that hell, you rarely see those even in dollar bins, but they have to be somewhere. There are so many of them out there, and I think at this point, if you could get a run of Wildcats or Stormwatch or Cyberforce or books like that, and again, barely above $1, I think you can start moving those again. So it might be a time for some people to find out for themselves what those old books were, like.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be interesting because DC seems pretty uninterested in doing Stormwatch stuff. What I'm saying?
52, it was the last time they messed with it.
Now they are bringing back a little bit. Did you see there's a new comic coming out, Superman and the Authority? So apparently Superman's going to be leading the Authority going forward.
Yeah, that's
correction, I should say Kal-El will be leading, because the new Superman is actually Jonathan Kent. So that strikes me.
Back issues.
That really strikes me as like, what the hell are you doing, DC? So
well, they did that 20 years ago with the Elite, Manchester Black, and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of probably have a similar feel to that.
Well, sure, but just because you did something in the past doesn't make it good.
No, I didn't say it would.
Okay.
Well, no, it wasn't bad then.
Because people said it to me. I posted on Twitter like a couple months back when I saw the ad. I was like, "What the hell are you doing to Superman?" And people were like, "Oh, Ash, you don't even know they did this before already." Blah blah blah. And I was like, "Yeah, so what? They also did One More Day 20 years ago. Doesn't mean we should do it again. Like, bad things before we should learn from. We shouldn't do New 52 2.0.
Okay. At least DC waits an appropriate amount of time, unlike Marvel, who recycles them almost yearly.
So you're saying we're going to get Heroes Reborn again in 2022?
No, that's Heroes Reborn.
Reborn.
Yes, and you know who
spell
the
with
star
eyes.
is. Yes.
Oh man, we Perch has got this thing called Bad Pitches. Maybe we should rip that off. That sounds like a bad pitch if I've ever heard of one. Speaking of bad pitches,
wait, is it Riri in Heroes Reborn?
Let him do it. And we'll call him Bad Perches.
Well, yeah. Well, they're already doing America. That's where I stole the idea. He and Joe Corallo, who I saw in the audience for a minute. I don't know what he's doing, but they do this thing, Bad Pitches, where they come up with really bad story ideas for the characters. Usually DC, but yeah. Man, it sounds like I got some stuff to collect.
Well, they were doing them for Marvel too, but they started showing up in print.
They were like, man, it's too hard to pitch worse than what Marvel's doing. We make a bad pitch, and then Marvel's like, hold our beer.
They're holding their pens writing it down. Hey, Tom, you getting all this? Yeah, Lana. Jordan, how about you? Ding, 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 ding.
Ukulele, playing his ukulele.
Hey, Heather, can I play you a tune?
Oh, so anyways, I had this thought, and it's actually I thought about this before, and I wanted to have a discussion on it. And this, I think, is a perfect segue into it. It was the idea of like everyone's talking about the bringing back like Marvel DC crossovers. Like 6 months ago, that was like all the rage. People on Twitter all the time like, oh, Marvel and DC need to cross over again, and da 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 da. And I was thinking, I don't really care if Marvel and DC crossover. Kind of been there, done that. I don't think there's anything more interesting that I want to see with that. But why don't the big two cross over with small time publishers more? DC had a pretty successful run with IDW with their Batman TMNT. I thought that was whether you're a fan of it or not, it's a crossover that worked. Fans seem to really like it, and it did a good job. They did this weird, interesting thing with Justice League Black Hammer. It didn't win me over, but I kind of appreciated the idea. Like, oh, well, this Black Hammer is kind of this small little superhero universe. Like, there seems to be room for the big two to work with these smaller publishers, and I think you can do more creative things because unlike Marvel and DC working together where it's like two alpha dogs and neither one can decide like, well, it's kind of the bad thing of doing the crossover because it's like, well, if Superman, whose characters get to come on top, and you just got everyone. But if it's DC crossing over with a small time publisher, I think there's a little bit less of that worry, like, hey, if DC crosses over with Dynamite to do Vampirella with something, I don't think there's anyone going, oh God, who gets the big, but you could do some creative stories. And then it just dawned on me, well, Jesus, DC has relations with Image. Jim Lee's over there. He's got this whole Image universe, the studio, Wildstorm. Why not just create a partnership with Image? It'd still be a DC property. Partner up with Image to do Wildstorm comics co-published with Image. And then, with Todd McFarlane doing his whole Spawn verse, Todd McFarlane wants to do a shared universe. My only complaint about the Spawn verse is that it's too insular. I'm like, well, that's great, Todd, but you just got a bunch of Spawns. Like, that doesn't feel like a shared universe to me. What I want to see is Spawn crossing over with Wildcats, Youngblood, Darkhawk, or whatever superhero things you got going on. What's that? Shadowhawk, yeah, sorry.
I think I know why Marvel doesn't do it.
Yeah, we all know why Marvel didn't do it.
I don't think the mouse is big on sharing. I mean, they'll license, to let IDW do children's versions of their characters, but I don't think they have any interest in, crossing over with other companies. Maybe if Marvel were still owned by somebody else, you might see that. But as far as the crossovers go now, I don't trust, I don't trust today's creators to do them well. There's just not, especially now that DC's lost most of their top talent.
Yeah.
And Marvel doesn't have enough to go around to begin with.
Well, that's the thing, is Image has got talent. Right? And that's what I'm saying is, especially, I think next year creates a perfect opportunity. Because this is where you sparked my idea. 30th anniversary of Image, right? Yeah. Which would be the 30th anniversary of Wildstorm. Right?
And the 20th anniversary since Wildcats 2 was supposed to come out.
It would just be a great opportunity for DC to have a pseudo anniversary, partner up with Image, do a big thing. Rising tide lifts all boats.
You're assuming Jim Lee's still going to be there in a year.
I am. I'm trying to be positive, trying to distract us. I think, like I said, DC and Marvel, I don't think could do this together because there are too many big heads in the room and too much, big pissing contests and stuff like that. But Image, what's Image, like 5-6% market share? They're still really small, relatively. I think there's a lot more room to collaborate there. And DC is second fiddle to Marvel, and it's just getting wider. So if I'm DC, if I'm Daniel Cherry, I'm thinking, how do we kick Marvel's ass? Well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. We got this 30th anniversary of Wildstorm. Wildstorm used to be an Image property. Let's partner up with Image, share a little bit of, solidarity, a little bit of collaboration, and work to raise both of our companies and, maybe eat into that Marvel share. And,
I'm not sure there's enough audience left that would even remember.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's true too.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of Marvel. I think there's a lot of Marvel fans that would remember. A lot of people that get excited about this Heroes Reborn crap would be more excited, I think, about Wildstorm Reborn. At least for a year. Just a 1-year promotion. If it doesn't take off, part your separate ways. Say it was as an idea we tried for, whatever. But I mean, I'm just spitballing. I think it's an opportunity that could be there. I think fans would be cool with it. Would it be as big of a success as it could have been had the industry not been pooping the bed for 20 years? No. But you got to start somewhere.
I do like the idea of DC kind of crossing over with some other small things. Tehillim29 in the chat had mentioned that he thought it'd be interesting for Jinx World, Brian Michael Bendis' imprint, to cross over with DC or Marvel. I threw in there that I think that could be interesting. Some of the characters that Bendis created over there, crossing over with DC, and obviously it wouldn't be too far of a stretch because he's already over there. The likelihood of it happening, probably a lot lower than when before his Superman run was halfway done. But I think it could be.
Idea.
What you got?
A Naomi Scarlet crossover where they just kill each other.
What?
My gosh. I mean, if Andrew Baker writes it, sure.
In fact, why stretch it out? Just make it a 1-issue super spectacular.
Oh, here, let me take it further. How about we make it a one-shot? Da-doom.
Oh, man. Now, think about this. Let DC comes in with Image. It says, look, we want to celebrate Image, like the Wildstorm 30th anniversary. Wildstorm has a pass with Image. It's your 30th anniversary. Let's partner up. Let's do it together. Let's do a cross promotion where we're doing some Wildstorm stories. You guys are going to be doing some Image stuff. And during this promotion, let's let these stories cross over. Let's have some Wildstorm stories where Spawn shows up or Savage Dragon. Jim Valentino wants to come back and do some Shadow, whatever. Just, maybe Rob Liefeld wants to do some Youngblood stuff. Just to celebrate the fun and let it all cross over, because you can't do it without the Wildstorm. So Disney or DC would have to be partner with this. And I think it would help both. I think it would get some eyes back on Image, and I think it would get some eyes back on DC, because whenever the partnership eventually ends, Wildstorm is going to go back to DC. But ultimately, assuming it's done reasonably well, fans win.
Was it LK saying this will just be the 1963 annual all over again? Well, I just happen to have some of the books from that 1963 storyline.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Of course, he reaches in the box.
We used to wonder what happened to Santa Claus. Now we know he retired and he started collecting comics.
The only problem is, when I reach in there for like packs of $1,000 bills, nothing happens.
But where you
so even it has its limits.
What you can't see is off camera. There's like these little elves handing Breen some comics every time.
Well, I'm not getting off my fat ass to look for them.
Well, who needs $1,000 bills when you got comics in your collection that probably are? Oh, you need it, really? See, your only problem is that you can't let yourself sell some of those books to have those $1,000 stacks. So I guess those
I sold 55,000 of them 7 years ago.
Did you?
Yeah, I used to own every Marvel comic from Fantastic Four 1, AF 15, Spider Man 1 through 700, full run of Fantastic Four, Hulk, Iron Man, Captain America, all the Tales of Suspense, all the Tales of Astonish. I had everything, all the X-Men from 1 up. And I had every DC from like 1962 up, and the only key issue I didn't have was Showcase number 4. I had everything. In fact, if I still had that collection, I would be doing show-off videos every freaking night.
That's amazing. Like, well, so my apologies. I didn't realize that you sold it. I thought from the way that it would be, it was like spoken about most of the time. I thought a natural disaster had occurred.
No,
And that's how you lost it.
I told myself when I sold them, I wasn't gonna go back to collecting. And 115 or so short boxes later, I suck at quitting.
He told himself that, and then someone killed his dog.
No, you know what though? I miss not having all of those, because I gotta tell you, especially like being able to pick up a long box and just look through Spider-Man's from 1 up is cool.
That is cool.
But I've got all the stories, but then not having anything again, I was able to go dollar box diving again. I mean, I got to the point to where, well, I'll give you an example of how big my collection had gotten. I had the original issue of that.
Oh my gosh, seriously? Wow.
If I had the real one today, it would be the most valuable book in my collection, because this is a four-digit book now, 4-figure book.
Oh my gosh.
There was a series called Super DC Giant in the early to mid 70s, and they had a 1970 and 1971 love issue, which were romance stories. And I had both of those, and actually paid over $100 for each of them, because I needed those two to finish that set.
Wow.
And now those are also $1,000 books, because they were aimed at girls. Girls bought them. Girls didn't collect comics, so they didn't save them. So there's just so few of them out there. That's why a lot of your war books and your westerns are a little bit more expensive than superheroes, because they appeal to a different audience, and those most of them got taken out of circulation. But I said that collection. I said I had the 3 bedrooms upstairs. I had one for Marvel, one for DC, and one for independent books. And I had posters all over the walls on all of them, and pegboards where I displayed all the best books, and it was insane looking in those. Yeah, when I had those, because basically my video where I show that room off.
Yeah.
Times 3, only that wall in the back had all the Marvel keys.
Wow.
So,
well,
there's a video somewhere of that my nephew made for a school project, but the old wish I'd taken pictures.
The cool thing about your story, I'm sure there might be times where you reminisce about owning those books and debate in your mind whether you should have ever sold them or whatever, but you have at least had the experience of having them, right? There's people like myself, I'll never know what it's like to have a complete Fantastic Four run, or a Spider-Man run, or even an X-Men run. Like, I'll just never have it. It'll always be like, oh, what if? It maybe it's no longer with you anymore, but you did get to have it. You are a rare individual that can say, I know what it's like to be in that situation and have had that.
A couple of quick anecdotes. This will put in perspective how long I've been doing this. My Avengers #1. It had, when I went to buy it, it had $5 on it. The guy sold it to me for $2. That Avengers #1.
Wow.
It was absolutely annihilated, and I only took it out of the bag it was in to put it in a nicer bag. And even that book is probably $1,000 now. I paid $20 for my Avengers 4 in probably a 6 to 7. But and Spider-Man 129, two copies, one for $5, one for $2. I was too cheap to spend the extra $3 to get it in mint. So I said, yeah, and these were all in the first half of the 80s. I bought Amazing Spider-Man the first time for $70 in really good shape.
That's actually something I think is interesting, because I don't go quite back as far collecting comics as that, but I can still remember collecting comics in the 80s and just being like, dude, it's not worth it that much more to get it in mint. Very fine is fine. Like, who cares? The book's worth an extra $1, right? Fast forward to today, and you're just like, oh yeah, that was a bad take.
It was definitely smart of me to have bought all the Batmans I did pre Michael Keaton movie, because they went through the roof and never came back.
Yeah.
But yeah, nowadays, I mean, it's not even, I mean, it wasn't, there wasn't any should I have sold it. If I hadn't, I would have lost my house. So that's an easy decision.
Yeah.
If can't fit 255 long boxes under an overpass. So yeah, it's you do what you have to do. And I said I still have the stories. I get to go buy a book for $1 or $2 that really means something to me now. And just you realize that those other all that stuff you had, you're not going to get them again. But that's fine. I said it's there's still enough to do in the hobby that you don't have. More often than not, I don't have time to miss the fact that I don't have them anymore.
This is true.
At least that's what I tell myself.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, that would be cool. I do find myself, as I'm getting older, having less and less of that draw that I used to have, as far as like having big key issues. Right? I mean, there was once upon a time where I just dreamed of having a giant size X-Men #1. Like, that was like my holy grail comic that I would, or even just regular X-Men #1. Because that was my bag, and I just was like, oh, it'd be so cool to have one of these one day, and it still would be cool. I'm not saying like I don't want it, but that desire to like find a way to get it, and I'm just like, I don't necessarily need that. Yeah. I'm finding a lot of my collection mentality is now more towards sentimentality rather than monetary value. And, I like, honestly, some of the most valuable comics in my collections are the ones that I got off the shelf new. Not ones that I went to a store and just cashed over money and now I own it. Yeah. I feel like this is a book that I collected. I bought it and it's stayed with me. I've held on to it for years. It's meant something to me. I love this run. Like these Hawkman, Venditti Hawkmans. There's a sentimentality to it. All the history. Not only do I love the books, but the history of collecting it, how I got into that book, all the people that were responsible for turning me on to it, talking about the book as it went on. The history of, complaining about DC Comics ignoring Hawkman and not giving, and all this stuff, all of that's there. And every time I look at those books, I can remember the enjoyment I had reading them, but also that history that I was involved in. I didn't come 20 years later and be like, oh yeah, pick those up and add them to my collection. And that's cool to do. Like I'm getting those Hawk World books, but I don't have any direct connection to the era as, say, maybe someone who did get Hawk World as they were coming out, and maybe that means something to them.
No, I agree with you, because for me now, I'm trying to get the books back that I got when I first started collecting, like the books from 76, 7, and 8, because to me, it was a great time to come into the hobby, and it's I said I get one of those books, and I remember where I was when I got the original one. I mean, I can still remember the first 8 or 10 new books I ever bought, and I've got most of them back now. Problem was, I started collecting X-Men with issue 100, and we all know what happened in issue 101, which means Eric ain't getting that back anytime soon.
What did happen in issue 101?
First Phoenix.
Oh, yeah.
And that's like $50 in a 2.0. But if you find somebody with a 2.0, good luck convincing them it's a 2.0. So, it's but other than that, like most of it, in the Englehart Rogers Detective went through that too. So the Joker Fish story, which 476 is hard to find under $100 in any shape, but so you kind of adjust your grails, and like I said, it sounds like you're partial to stuff you got when you were buying new, when you were, I'm assuming, when you were younger, or even recently. But yeah, it definitely again, it's one of the neat things about the hobby is, like I said, certain books take you back to certain times and places, and that's, like I said, it's part of the whole associating memories with things you like. And yes, on that note, and I know I've been running off at the mouth, this has been a blast, but I do have to get some sleep so I can get up and hopefully have that guy come bring some more books in for me to mess with tomorrow.
All right. Well, I mean, I was only planning on running about 2 hours, and we're at that mark, so we can wrap it up if you can just stay for a few minutes.
All right.
Skip, did you have any final points that you wanted to make, or anything that was on your mind before we wrap things up?
No, I mean, I don't have a lot of keys myself. I am looking for like a lot of series that like were never really that popular, and I don't know if I don't think most of the ones that I'm looking for are that valuable right now. So for me, it's like it's just all a world of wonder. I find out about this random new, this random old book that's new to me that's interesting, and it either comes from talking to Breen, or watching some video from Strange Brain Parts, or cartoonist kayfabe, or going and talking to some other comic buddies and being like, what, that's a thing. Some of the creator buddies that I have, and most of the time it's just a matter of like getting to. I think the only thing that like I'm looking for right now that can be kind of pricey, but even then I found like a pretty sweet deal. I'm on eBay like waiting to bid, and I think the bid's not past $20 to get like 15 of them. Is Beautiful Stories for Ugly Children. But like I'm kind of into like Piranha Press stuff, as I was talking about, etc. I guess like a few days ago to you. So I don't know. For me, it's just a world of wonder, and it's not been too bad on my pocket. The only thing that like I'm trying to completely collect, and it is a little bit of a strain, is Ice Cream Man, because I jumped on it late, and since it got optioned, everybody's just charging like. So I found some dude that had like 2 through 22, and he wants like $700. Like,
jeez. Oh yeah, when the speculators get involved, it's really tough because it's so volatile and prices are going through the roof. That's why it's really hard to buy America Chavez books, or the classic Gabby Rivera run, which I would love to own, because it's speculators like, blah, I want tons of money. You're like, come on, it's not going to be. Eventually, this is going to settle down and be worth nothing again. Like, right? Exactly. But I'm not going to pay for it right now.
Yep, we just wait. But no, that's it. Everything else is just enjoying these conversations with y'all, buying books, reading them, and just just falling deeper and deeper in love with comics. That's all.
All right. Well, I just want to remind everyone, next week we're going to be doing a criminal cast with Eric Breen and Skip and Nalo. And like I said, we're working on making the show better and better. So please join us and give us feedback to see how successful we are at making the show better. Also, here's a couple picks for some books. My pull list is very small next week, but it's a beauty. Look at that. Berserker 2 and Friend of the Devil. You guys throw out what books you guys recommend, and we'll be ending this chat. Now, Breen's got to go to bed. He's got work in the morning. I'm going to go out and hang out. I know people have been telling me, like such as Tehillim, about hanging out in the chat. I'm going to go hang out in the Discord chat for a while. If anyone wants to come out and chat some more comics after the show, please feel free to come over there. Be glad to have you. And we'll go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank my partners. Eric, thank you for hanging out this long with us. I know the East Coast time is tough on you. Skip, it's always great to be with you as well. And everyone else in chat, thank you for being with us, and have a great night.
Good night, kids.
Later.